Know what it takes to play basketball. Because I personally think it's a very flawed sport, very redundant, and referees have far too much control. That's just my personal view. But they just shoot basketballs all day. I mean, all day.
Think about how much concentration, focus, and time it takes to get great at any sport. These people don't have time to educate themselves on politics, economics, or philosophy. They only have time to train and play basketball. That's why we appreciate anybody that does have some type of knowledge about philosophy, politics, and economics. But these celebrities are used as cover to hide the problems in our nation, and especially the problems in the Black community.
Do you not understand the reality of what we've done here? We have mechanized the system where we elevate people that are not coming from families of long wealth and giving them all this money as W-2 money.
And one of the biggest reasons Tones is talking about the salary is because if you take it in stock options or deferred compensation, you can save in taxes. But with these NBA, NFL players, they don't give them that option, so they get the maximum amount of taxes taken out of their money.
And then let the city that has Black folks on fire parade them around as a way to show that we have diversity and wealth. And we want to talk about Ja Morant and the gun. We're not going to talk about that mama that be calling them the finish line to fight folks. I know a lot of y'all like, what are you talking about, Tom? I don't know nothing about that. We talk about that in a second. Again, he's making 200, and let me make sure that everybody that just came in gets to see it. He's making $231 million over 5 years. So like $40-50 million a year in a city where the middle family, not person, is making $35,000.
Think about it. Ja Morant's making $30-40 million a year in a city where the average Black person probably makes $20,000 to $30,000. There's families, large numbers of families of three that make $20,000 to $30,000. Do you know that sucks? That is like some serious poverty for you. And we're talking about Ja Morant. They don't want us talking about these other things. Why do you think they want us so focused on individualism, rugged individualism, and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps? Because they can always point to these rich people and say, see, they did something right. And the reason you're poor and struggling is because you did something wrong. You individually did something wrong. Notice these people never talk about macroeconomics or macroeconomic crises that affect individuals and individual firms. They don't talk about that, do they? They don't talk about monetary policy and how that affects us on a large macroeconomic scale. They don't talk about the connections between politics and economics. They don't talk about the differences between a commercial bank and a central bank. They don't talk about the Federal Reserve. All of those things affect the individuals, large numbers of individuals, because now we're talking about macroeconomics.
As long as you can keep these folks happy and also confused about how they have everything and it's been taken from every Black person, Adolph's Black person in Memphis, we good. This is about politics here. That is his role. I want you to read this. It's on screen. I showed it earlier. In the Memphis statistical metropolitan area, which includes parts of Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi, the overall poverty rate is 16%. But it's buoyed by the Black folks. Black poverty is 24%. And we're not talking about working poor. We talking about dirt poor. What is the poverty line? We talking about families of three that bring in $21,000 for the whole year. And you gonna sit this boy in those communities as some kind of mascot of diversity and wealth.
See, they got us focused on Ja Morant. And then after Ja Morant, he'll be the next individual rich person. That's what we got to understand. These videos that I make, the music that I make, is to try to spark conversation so that we can finally politically organize and politically get the things that our community and families need. Think about what Ja Morantvand is doing is a symptom of the problems in our countries, communities, and families. Black people are struggling. We're harming ourselves, we're harming others because we lack resources. Any animal who is starved of resources will start to attack themselves and those around them. You can use the internet to look that up, YouTube. Or you can do your own experiment. Get any organism and close off space on that organism, reduce that organism's resources, and watch what happens. Especially if you got multiple organisms in that small space with no resources.
Do we all understand what's going on here and how none of these people, these pundits on TV really grasp the depths of this? The ways in which cities have decided to avoid national political reparative justice discussions with arenas filled with mascots that make the city, that's almost all white folks living the highest life, feel that we don't need to do no politics, we don't need to worry about no everything fixed because Ja Morant is here.
But this is important because I have children, and I know my children are going to have children, and other people in this world have children. So if we're only focused on entertainment and celebrity, we're never going to be able to figure out these problems that we're facing. See, why they have all of us talking about Ja Morant and his gun, they're taking our eye off the fact that black people are super poor. See, the LeBron Jameses, the Michael Vicks, the Deshaun Watsons, all of these famous athletes that get these large contracts, James Harden, Devin Booker, whoever you name that makes a lot of money playing sports, their wealth is used to cover up the fact that Black America is mostly wealthless. So that instead of talking about how we can get wealth so we can have generational wealth for those that come after us, we're focused on talking about these individual rich people who could care less about politically organizing to get black people money because they've already been handed lots of money and told to go shoot basketball. So we got to see past the current story and see what's the bigger story. Think about all the poverty that's in Memphis that Ja Morant is covering up. Think about all the people on TV in the NBA. They're never going to talk about the poverty that exists in the United States or Memphis where Ja Morant is. That's what's so disrespectful and horrendous. And nobody's talking about those people. So the only people that we should care about is Ja Morant and other rich people. Come on, y'all. We should only care about rich people. They can take care of themselves. We should be caring about those we're not talking about, those who are starved of resources that have very little. See, we're not taught to think this way in school. That's why individualism and competition is pushed so hard. Because if you're only thinking about yourself and competing against the next person, you're not thinking about who you're harming. You're not thinking about who's been harmed by the system, who the system is hurting, because you're only focused on you and yourself. Therefore, we're not focused on fixing problems. We're only focused on stomping on the next person so we can go higher. See, that's why we're not talking about this in schools. Because then people will wake up, their consciousness would change, and we would start to work together more and change the world. That's why we need different types of music and movies to start to change our consciousness. If we're focused on these violent, drug, sex-infested songs and movies and shows, then we'll start to mimic that in real life. And I'm not blaming the media and entertainment. I'm telling you that it is a tool used against us. And if we don't use our ability to create our own music, movies, and shows to change our consciousness, then we'll be stuck with the mainstream creating it and replicating these processes we're doing now, like with Ja Morant, and only focusing on Ja Morant, and then the next media cycle when it's the next individual rich person. Think about all the homelessness in San Francisco and LA and across the country, DC, Philadelphia. They're not talking about that. That's who needs our help, not Ja Morant. Forget him. At the end of the day, he's going to be okay. He's got millions of dollars. What about all those poor families in Memphis and across the country, all those poor homeless people? We need to be politically organized to change this. There's no way we're the richest country when you have all this poverty and homelessness. Think about it. What does that say about how we care about the next human? And if we don't care about humans, what does that say about our own humanity? These are the thoughts I think about. This is Heavy Hooks, another heavy thought.